Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about how to start and form a business, specifically an LLC, since I think it's the easiest one and the most flexible kind of entity. So the first step in creating a business is determining what your name is going to be. Now this name needs to be unique in your state, not necessarily in the country. The easiest way to figure out if you have a unique name is you just Google your state's name and then business entity search. And it usually takes you to your Secretary of State website. So bear in mind that your name always needs to include LLC at the end, or sometimes a PLLC, which is a professional limited liability company. So you're only going to need the PLLC if you're in certain kinds of industries, like if you're a doctor, an accountant, architect, things that require a license. So the reason for that little P in front is because, while limited liability companies are meant to limit your liability, certain professions do not limit your liability when it comes to malpractice. So the next step is designating a registered agent. Now, this is the person that's going to appear on the paperwork when you submit it to the state, and this is public information. So the registered agent is the person that the government is going to contact if they ever need to get a hold of you. So some people don't want their personal information out there, so they either hire a lawyer to do it, or there are some services online that you can use that will act as a designated agent, but you do have to pay them a fee. For the most part, if you're not going to be a ginormous business, especially starting out, you can just put your home address and name. That's what most of us are going to have to do. So choosing a name and appointing a registered agent are all part of forming what are called the Articles of Organization. Now, normally you're going to do this through your Secretary of State website. I'm in Arizona, and the system that we have, you can apply entirely online. Some states may not have caught up just yet, so you may have to send in physical forms. So when you file your Articles of Organization, it generally lists who the members are going to be, what your structure is going to be if you're either member managed or manager managed. Most likely you're going to be a member managed. You are going to be an LLC member. You're going to be managing. If you were a manager managed, that means that you are just more of kind of a passive investor, that somebody else, you're going to hire somebody to come in and manage the business for you. So after you file your Articles of Organization with the state, you just basically wait for them to process it, and then you're legally organized in the state as an LLC. So here are some post-formation tips. First, you need to create some kind of operating agreement. So an operating agreement isn't absolutely necessary if it's just you, because the operating agreement is primarily for if you have multiple members, you need to understand what role each person is going to play. It also defines how you're going to allocate stuff like income, how you're going to distribute money out, profits out to different members, who's going to contribute what kind of money or different assets. It's just kind of a guideline as to how things are going to function in the business. Doesn't matter if you're family, close friends, or just random business partners that happen to have things in common. You need to have some kind of written agreement, because if things ever get hairy, that's exactly what it's going to default to. If you ever have to go to court, they're going to say, what does your operating agreement say? And if you did or did not follow those guidelines, you're probably going to get in trouble with it. That being said, it's not a legal document for the state, but it's something that you need to have as a policy in your company. So the next post-formation tip is getting stuff like any licenses or permits in order. So if you need something from the city, like a health permit for a restaurant, you need to obtain all of the necessary licenses for your given operation. Make sure you do that before you start operating. The next step is to register for taxes. Now, generally, if you're selling like a physical product, most states have some kind of tangible personal property sales and use tax kind of deal. So you're going to need to register for stuff like that. Now, beyond that, I would personally recommend, not as your CPA, but just as a CPA in general, that you do get an EIN, an employer identification number. This is essentially your social security number for the business. It is a unique tax identifier from the federal government that identifies you. Some people say that you don't necessarily need one right up front. I generally always recommend getting one. You're going to need one anyway. If you start filling out formal documents for your business, they're generally always going to ask for that. The alternative is that if you do not have your own EIN, you're probably going to have to use your personal social security number. So if you don't want that getting out there, it's best to just have the EIN ready, and then you're good to go on filling out all of your forms. And the last post-formation tip is obtaining a business bank account. You need to remember that once you start the business, it needs to operate as its own entity, like it's your own child or a separate person. You want to make sure that all of your income and expenses are flowing through there. You want to keep as much of it out of your personal account as possible. Remember, the whole point of the LLC is creating limited liability for yourself. If something goes wrong, people are only limited to what's inside of the business. But if you start commingling things, if you're running everything out of your personal account, they might be able to pierce that LLC shield, what some people call the corporate veil, and then they can come after you personally, and that's not a situation that you want. So you have it, folks, kind of a quick and dirty on how to start and form a business. Remember that every state is going to be a little bit different. I'm here in Arizona, so I know the process fairly well. Every state's going to have its own little nuances, though. I'll have some other videos coming out with some additional business tips and on how to grow your business, as well as some tax tips you can use. So I wish you the best in your business. Please like and subscribe for more. Best of luck.